I guess we'll take a break because I know the big story is coming up and I want to kind of give some space in between. This was the most recent story too, and I know you want to give your full thoughts on it. But I'm trying to think. I guess I'll ask you some general questions, you know, to clean the palate. And if obviously you've been a lot of places in the world, and I know that you haven't been to everything or every place. What would be outside of the country for right now? What would be the place you want to go visit?
Where would I go next?
Well, yeah. Obviously, where would you go next? Because you'd be the one to do it too. So yeah. Where would you go next outside of the country?
I have been drawn to South America just because I have practiced a lot of Spanish recently.
Right.
So I feel good about that language, and I would love to solidify. And I'm feeling the warmth. Like after I tell this next story, it will be understood why I will feel the warmth.
I think you deserve the warmth, buddy.
Yeah.
I think it's something you deserve at this point. Absolutely. So South America, where in South America? Just like around the country, or do you have a specific spot?
I don't know. My friend Annabelle that I was talking about, he was from Chile.
Right.
And so maybe, but I don't know. There's just so many places. I also have these friends in France that they're like my #1 fans for my music, and so I would love to go play for them.
Oh, in France? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted you to plug your SoundCloud when you were talking about it. What's your SoundCloud? Your Friendly Nomad?
Yeah, everything's Your Friendly Nomad.
That's the new Sutton name. And how many songs did you have? Well, okay, yeah. How many songs do you have now?
That are on there, just 3. They're all old ones that I have recorded, and I'm like, what am I doing just having this on my laptop? It actually took a friend to tell me, like, dude, these are good. Just put them out there, yeah. I always thought that I would wait until they were really well recorded in studio and I have to pay for it, but it's like, just use what you have and see what it is.
Did you write any songs when you were abroad?
Yeah, man, about every day.
You wrote
the guitar saved my life in so many ways.
And how many songs did you like fully write up? Like how many songs did you write?
So I probably have like 15 songs that I have on tap. That I could just play and meaningfully play, because I mean there's so many that I've written that just don't apply anymore, but there's some songs that are eternal.
Right. You should put those out there.
Yeah, it's a matter of recording at this time, and it's a matter of having a place of silence to do so.
Yeah.
So all these things are coming into fruition.
Fair enough. I was curious. I was like, he's definitely been. If he brought that guitar along, and especially after it survived that horrendous crash I keep hearing about, I would have guessed that you were writing songs in between, because you know you got something. You need to have something to pass the time.
Yeah.
So as far as inside the country, I guess, and you could include Canada if you want. I usually tend not to, but you know what? There's probably a place in Canada. Where do you want to visit in the country?
So when we're asking all these questions, like these have been my questions to myself, because right now I'm faced with this crazy decision, like today or tomorrow. Today being, what is the date?
It is, as of recording this, it is 5/19, so it's May 19th.
May 19th. Okay, so as today or tomorrow, I have to give word back to the farm in Colorado whether I'm coming back for the next 6 months, committing myself through mid-November, or if I'm not. In that case, they would have to get a new intern.
Right.
So I am making my decision. It's either like, okay, yes, I'm going back to the farm, or no, and then I'm back at square one. It's like, okay, dude, you can go anywhere in the world. What would you want to do?
Right.
And for me, I built out Subaru.
Yeah.
So like
I was gonna say you
cross
could totally cross country travel, and it's like you can go. I mean, starting from square one, you don't really have a set plan, and I don't know if you did. Right, and I feel like would you make a plan up or would you just drive?
I don't know, man. For Asia, it was just completely wandering, and
Right.
I feel like I lived that time, and now I would like to use what I have and make sure I'm spreading the light efficiently.
Right.
And it's not a matter of being settled down to a certain plan, but it's like if you plan things out, just like creating a film, writing is so important. And to have a plan, at least to break the plan at the very least, is so important.
Yeah, this time. I would say absolutely. Writing is a very key part of making a film. I would know because I can't do it properly. But it's very interesting, and I hope. I mean, you have an iPhone now, so I would hope that you would be recording or maybe taking pictures if you do travel around the world. Even if you're in Colorado, I know you have an Instagram page. You're a Friendly Nomad, the same one as your SoundCloud, and I'll link it in the description for other people. But I mean, I would love to see some of these pictures and just videos of you traveling. I mean, like obviously, you know, it's something to see, you know, the Ryan Sutton travel from state to state doing whatever, and it would just be so cool.
Dang. Well, you give me motivation to do those things.
I'll be your number one fan. I'll be
Nice,
the only one
man.
subscribed to you. I'll be your number one fan. I'll like and comment every video. No, it's just yeah. It's something that I think you totally should do because it's sharing that unique experience with other people. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I would usually close the podcast off with paranormal stories, but I guess I'll do it now because I want to close the podcast off with your big story. I think that would be the appropriate appropriate timing for that. But I'm gonna ask you: have you had any paranormal experiences? And if so, what were some of them? If you want to give them examples of.
So can you define paranormal?
Well, okay. So I mean, the basic paranormal definition that I usually use is ghosts. I mean, have you had any experiences where you could just twist this and take it wherever you want to go, but like anything that you would consider paranormal or ghost-like to the rest of us? Like, I mean, if you have other stories, go ahead and tell them. This is your time to shine, man, not mine. I'm just asking a basic question. If you want to go at it, go ahead.
Okay, so I totally appreciate you. Like, you're good, man.
Yeah, no, I try to be, like I said, I try to be the best I can.
So, pretty much when I was in Thailand, I was on Koh Phangan for a while, and I was practicing jiu-jitsu and some different movement arts. And one day I take my physical body is taken rather to this remote waterfall in the jungle, and
Right.
I strip down. I'm naked in this waterfall, and I'm there for maybe an hour. My body's starting to get a little uncomfortable. I'm a little cold, so I start to walk out of the waterfall, and I feel these arms around my chest, like the most seductive yet motherly and comforting arms I've ever felt in my life. But they were so familiar, these arms. And they take me back into the water, and I lie back into the water, and all of these fish start swimming around me, and they start nibbling around my skin. And I notice they're like those guppies that are in the spas that take away your dead skin. So I'm laying there, and I'm getting like the spa treatment from Mother Nature as the waterfall is rushing over my face, and I'm just feeling and being there. And from there, I had an enlightening experience, another very, very profound one, climbing onto the waterfall and having this external dialogue where normally it's an internal dialogue, but I'm in the middle of the jungle at this remote waterfall naked, completely submitting myself to Mother Nature and all of her ways. And I was accepted back in. It was like, I understand your intentions, Ryan. and this is who you are. And it was like I was given a new name, I was given a new identity, I was given a new purpose, a refreshed purpose. And those arms on are something that I could think of as paranormal. They would be not of physical matter, but of something so familiar and so touching, so comforting and warm.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
right, when people usually talk about their paranormal experiences, they always talk about negative ones. They never seem to have positive ones. And it's always telling when someone says something positive about like, for me personally, I've experienced, I usually say twice, but I think once, a full-on paranormal experience where it was really weird, like something otherworldly. And I've already told it in the podcast before, but I'll give a summary of it. Is when me and my group of friends, the Lucas, Unger, and Tim and everybody, we would go to this spot near their houses, and it's this dam area where it's like a river anyways. Like, it's a river, and there's some land on the sides. We would stand on the side, and we smoke cigs or whatever we did and everything. And it's just the typical lung fashion. But we would go to this area, and Sean Coughlin was there first before all of us, and he was sitting in his car. So I had called him up. I said, look, I asked him if he was there, because I parked on the side where we usually park on the street. I was like, are you at the spot? He goes, yeah. So I kept texting him. I was like, are you like out at the spot? He wouldn't respond. So I started walking my way down to this area by myself. And it's really dark. It must have been it was during the wintertime, I believe. Wasn't like snowing out, but it was one of those colder days. And it was like 8 o'clock. I walked down there. You have to climb over these rocks and under giant tree trunks to get to this spot. And when I got in there, I was standing there by myself with my flashlight out, and I was calling out Sean's name because I thought he was out there. And it turns out he wasn't. So I saw this figure standing that literally looked like a figure, something like in a silhouette kind of style. And I was like calling his name. I thought it was Sean. And I started walking towards it, and I swear it moved underneath the tree that I climbed under to get to the spot. And then all of a sudden I shine my light over there, and there was nothing. And I go, huh, I'm wondering if Sean walked back to his car. Is that what it was? So I see these flashlights walking down from a distance to get to our spot. And he walks over, and I see Sean. I said, why'd you go back? He goes, no, what are you talking about? I said, you were just standing down here. He goes, no, I was in my car the whole time. And I was like, that's not true. There's no way. And I started freaking out. But that's what I would consider a paranormal experience, because it's something that's weird and it didn't seem right. I've never had an official ghost encounter. I've never had a spirit encounter. I can say I felt presences before. I wouldn't consider them paranormal. I would say that it could be like nature, just me experiencing the inner depths of nature, I would say. Because I try to practice my life as a very natural living guy. I go out on hikes all the time, and I try to experience nature in its fullest form. And I feel like sometimes when I'm at peace in my own body and I'm just kind of sitting there, I can feel something more than just air. I feel an energy there. And I feel that it brings me peace. And I don't know if you've ever, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, because I
like the way you say that.
You feel this vibe, it's, for lack of a better term, this energy. And it's something that brings me peace, and it's good for meditation. And I just kind of, I live in the moment, like you always say. But I live directly in that moment. I don't focus on anything else. I just focus on my inner thoughts, which are usually positive thoughts. And I just think of, that nature in itself is something so beautiful and gorgeous. Like being in the woods when I'm walking by myself. I love that feeling. And I really wish more people would understand the positives of that. And
yeah,
I mean, I can say some of the best experiences I've ever had, which was last year with my relationship. Me and my girlfriend would go out, and we would walk in and do hikes and stuff. and some of the best moments are from the peace and quiet that we would experience with nature. And it was just, it was some of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And I can't like stress enough how beautiful, I keep saying the word beautiful, and I think I've said it way too many times at this point, but it's just so gorgeous, you know, and it's, there's no other way to describe it. It's sublime in some ways. But yeah, I don't remember what, paranormal experiences. I was going to say, I don't remember what the original topic we were on is. But yeah, so that's,
I like the way.
Yeah, I that's the only paranormal experience I've really, like, I would say is like a ghost story. But that's interesting how you felt, you know, hands. You were obviously, you were naked, which I mean, in today's, in America, if you were naked in a waterfall, you'd probably get looked at funny. But it's probably a cultural thing, right? I'm assuming in foreign countries.
So really quick to finish that story. So I felt all this, right? And so it's time to come back into reality.
Yeah.
So I've been there for, I don't know how many hours. And these hikers walk up to the waterfall. And I was just about to get out because I was like calling it a day. And these hikers walk up, and it's these girls in these, you know, when there's Nikes and the soles are really tall and they're like 3-inch soles, and like they're shoes, but they're really fashionable, and they're wearing all these fashion athletic wear, and
I think so.
they in the waterfall, and they're all taking their pictures, like hobbling over rocks, look like they've never hiked before. And I'm just at this piece. I have my eyes closed, I'm in meditation, and then I just start looking at them, and they start looking at me, and they go hi, and then I just give them a slow nod, and they're kind of looking, and they're kind of like, oh man, there's a crazy guy here. I thought we were just going up for a hike, but like now there's this crazy guy, and I don't know how to feel. So I say to them, you know those fish in spas that eat your dead skin? And they're like, yeah. And I go, this waterfall is full of them. And they go, seriously? I was like, yeah. And they sounded American, so like just to give that type of notion.
Yeah.
So they stick their hand in really quick and pull it out, and that was just the perfect metaphor for like that whole situation.
Yeah.
Like it's about sitting in there for hours until the fish accept you as part of all of this. It's not to just get a quick dip in.
Right.
And
it's not like a pool of healing, you know.
So exactly. So the girls start walking down. The guy starts lingering. He leaves, and I stay there for a few more minutes until they're gone. I start getting my clothes back on, and I'm just chanting as I go, like just chanting and singing. And I see the other group. They're standing on top of the waterfall, and I was still naked at the time, and I'm chanting, and I look up to them, and I go, who are you? And then he screams back to me, I am you! And I just laugh, and I continue my things.
That's
and
awesome, man.
I felt so confident with that transition back into reality, and I felt very good. I felt supported and comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving, and then the three guys walking on the waterfall, they come back, and then they go, boom, and they're chanting, and then I'm chanting back to them, and I'm just smiling. The sun's starting to go down. I'm walking out of this canyon, and the sun is literally dropping behind the mountains as I go. So darkness is just following me, like a footstep behind me.
Right.
And every foot I go, it's like pushing me out. It's like, okay, Mother Nature took you in, and now she's pushing you out. I get out, and I go straight to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class from there, and it was really, really crazy stuff.
That's really cool how like it starts with Mother Nature. Yeah, Mother Nature letting you in, and then she finally kicks you out. She's like, no, you had enough. We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, you got the download.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's so cool. That's a really cool experience. And I was thinking about this, asking this earlier, and I guess I didn't. But like, how does it feel? Going from a foreign land back to America. For you stayed in the foreign land for a while. I wouldn't say long enough. like not like a year, but like for a decent amount of time. What was the difference when you came back? Like how did you feel?
It's so interesting, Trevor, because I have all these experiences. I am given this new identity, this new name, this new purpose, and yet still there's a role waiting for me back home. There's the role of the liver of my room, the son of Barry and Linda, the brother of Luke and Monica, the friend of my friends that I left behind. All of these roles that I need to start fulfilling in a totally different way. And it's like you're given the same script, but you have to read it with a new accent, and you have to keep that accent. And it's like there's this pressure, and anytime I felt that pressure, I would just breathe. I would just come back to the moment, and I realized no matter where you are in the world, there are people. And no matter where you are in the world, the trees grow upward. And babies want mother's attention, and we find little things cute. And there's these general truths that remain. And it's by those truths as my experiences diversify, it's the eternal truths that are so unrelated to the surroundings or the circumstances. It's all about what is true. People like feeling good, and being able to do that, being able to help people feel comfortable.
Right.
It's I felt like although my physical body is here now, my spiritual body is irregardless of time or space. It's giving what needs to be given.
Right. I mean that's fucking amazing. Like that whole like spiel that you just went on. And one of I don't know how much you listen to like contemporary music. Do you listen to a lot of music?
I only listen to I don't really listen to anything actually.
Okay. Well, so this is interesting. So there's one of my favorite albums. My favorite album of all time is titled "Total Life Forever" by a band called Foles, which is an alternative artist. And one of the songs in this album, which I would highly recommend you at least give it a try, especially this song, it's titled "Two Trees," and it's a very soft and sublime song. And the lyrics focus on being helpful in life and giving into just life itself. Like it starts off by saying, rest yourself, rest your head, be still, play dead. Don't give away. It's like something about breathing and inhaling and exhaling. Learn to acquiesce with life. And it's such a beautiful song it's telling you that everything's gonna be okay. And it's just live life in the moment and be still, play dead. Let life kind of guide you where you're gonna go as opposed to where you want to go. Live in the moment. It's such a live in the moment song, and the way I'll probably put it in the beginning of this podcast because it's such a beautiful sounding song, and it makes me feel so much more. It's such a meditative, like poem, in a way, because songs are just poems, but it's telling you everything's going to be okay in the end, and that no matter what happens, you're still going to live life. And the unfortunate thing is that everyone dies, but even still in death, there's still peace to that. And something you had mentioned before, actually I'm going to hold off on that because it might lead to the final story. I'm gonna take a little bit of a transition here, and I don't know how much you like kind of believe in the concept of dreams. Not believe in it, but like kind of look into the idea of dreams. But have you had any interesting dreams that may have had connections to your life in reality?
So for me, I don't usually remember my dreams. Or if I do, it's strange little tidbits or the people that are in them. So the one thing I guess I can say is if I have a dream about a person, about 96% of the time, I wake up, and if I see my phone, then they have contacted me. And for me, one of those examples, I was thinking very heavily about. I had this really heavy dream about this girl named Margot from France, and I ended up getting a message from her the following day, and she's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what happened?" And she goes, "What happened?" And so she was asking, unsure of what she was asking, but asking about what happened on the mountain, what happened with the last story that we told.
Right.
And,
right. We're about to tell. Yeah.
And she was satisfied with the answer. She's like, "Yeah, that's what I was curious about," which is.
Okay. Well, so yeah, I was gonna say I have some weird dreams, and I don't want to get into it because it gets just stupid weird. But like the one of the things that always fascinates me is the idea of deja vu, because I get this a lot. Have you experienced a lot of deja vu, or have you not? I'm just curious.
Yeah, man, all the time.
Okay.
Busy, right.
Right. And do you have like a perspective on it? Do you have like some sort of grasp as to why it happens, or do you just kind of let it go? Because like some people have like a perspective on deja vu, and I have my theories towards as to why it might happen, but I usually just let it go. I've come down to the point where if it happens, I will just straight up say deja vu in a moment and let it slide. You know, I don't know if you have a perspective on it. I guess I'm just curious. If you don't, it's fine.
For me, it's linked with past lives and similarities and lessons that you've already learned. And but for me, I don't have a complete thought on it. I haven't thought about it enough or prayed about it.
Yeah, and don't worry about it. It's just something I'm always curious to ask people, because they always have different answers, or you know, some of them haven't even experienced it before. I guess to kind of like finish it off simply is that like I believe that the fact that like I usually want to say that they come from my dreams, but at the same time I don't know where these moments come from. I don't understand where they arrive from. But Lucas had brought up a point when we talked about it last time, and I wish he was here to talk about it. I wish he was here for the whole podcast too, because this is all riveting stuff, and I'm sure he had a lot of thoughts. Like, I'm gonna just kind of side bit here for a second. You wouldn't think Lucas is a very deep person, but he gets really deep sometimes, and it's cool to have him around. But the whole deja vu thing, from his perspective, is that it's I think he said that it was an alternate reality that you're living, in the moment. Like someone has already lived, your own person has lived this in a separate reality, and so you're living in it in the current reality. But I mean, it's just interesting, I guess. I don't know. It's always something I like to ask people, and I was wondering, I was just curious from your background and what you've dealt with, if you had any answer. But I don't know. It's always something I like to ask. Do you have? Well, go. What were you saying?
No, I'm thinking that I'll chew on it for a little bit. Not for this podcast. You're right. That's something that, and also telepathic communication, and when you think about somebody and then they contact you the next day, or you see their mom, or however, all of these things are
abnormalities. That's all right. I can't say it either. It's good.
Yeah, they truly are that word.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot to think about, a whole lot to chew on.
I mean, I don't usually do this, and I feel like I'm putting you in a weird position, but do you have any questions for me? Coming from your perspective, just if you want to like interview me for a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
It's all right. The podcast is all about me now. I'm cutting you off. No, if you have, I'm just curious, like, because you've lived a different life and I've lived a different life, so I'm wondering if you have any questions about like anything for me. If you don't, it's fine. We'll just move on. I'm just curious if you have anything.
I have one question.
Okay.
All right. So if you knew, okay, I'll ask it in this way. If you knew death were coming, what would you do with this day?
What? So if I knew it was coming, let's say tomorrow, what would I do with it today?
Who knows about when it's coming? But if you knew death was which
Well,
we do.
right. So death is inevitable, but
Right.
I mean, so I guess I would try to make myself a little bit better. I would try to like force myself to kind of break this human form that I live in, this kind of shell that I live in, and the fact that like I'm subject to be sometimes miserable, sometimes in pain, sometimes in sadness, and I would try to break that. And I would try to say, you know what, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time for you to live a more positive life. And I'm not saying that I don't. Like, I live a very, I would say I live a very positive, healthy life. And I try to push myself to be something more than just a human being. I try to push myself to help others. Like, I mean, I hold doors for people, you know, that are walking in. Even if they're kind of far away, I will hold it for them, you know? And
Make them do the little run. I
yeah,
feel you.
right. And I would push myself to bring myself a better person because I'm still subject to these human error qualities, and I think I kind of experience them more than I probably could. You know, I think that I still deal with anger and pain, and I deal with anger and pain in a great manner sometimes, especially with like some recent things I've been dealing with, and I would just. I guess I would focus on maybe finding some sort of silver lining and forgiveness in some of these issues, and you know, strive myself to be a better person, because it's something I should do regardless, no matter whether if I'm going to die tomorrow or whether if I'm, you know, death is coming sooner than I thought. But I think that if it was, you know, if I knew it was nearing closer than I would have thought, I would definitely push myself to bring more light to other people's lives through my life, and say, you know what, I'm gonna live out the best I can be. You know, because some people would say, oh, if they knew death was coming, they're gonna party hard, they're gonna do drugs, they're gonna do all these things that they wish they did. And I right, and I wish I would say the same, and I would say the same, but in a positive manner. I would love to go out of state. I would love to travel for a little bit. You know, I would love to be in nature. I would love to just kind of go camping for once, and since it's been like 7 years since I've gone, you know, I would love to live out a positive life as opposed to a negative life, and that's the way I want to go out. I don't want to be going out as a negative person. I want to be going out as a positive person and moving other people. You know?
I really like the way you, man. I like who you're choosing to be, and I love who you are.
It never used to be the case, you know. I never used to be this way, and I would have to. A lot of this is due to my past relationship with, you know, one of my best friends, and she influenced my life to be more of an open book rather than a closed center. And it was just through that experience, through everything I had gone through, no matter, you know, whether it was love or just being a damn good friend, it was everything about that and everything that pushed me to be a better person to who I am now. Because I just want to live out a positive life. I want to live out a outgoing life. And prior to me ever hanging out with this person, I would stay indoors. I wouldn't like push myself to be outgoing. I was always kind of I wouldn't say outcast, but I was more, what's the word I'm looking for? I was an introvert. And I was, you know, at your grad party, I didn't really talk. I talked to the people I knew. As opposed to now I would meet other people, you know, I would go out of my way to say, hey, oh, what's up? Like, still silly example, but
real example.
But like when I go to Chestnut with some of my friends, we kind of try to strive ourselves to, you know, hook up with other girls, but I'm more outgoing than I would have been a year ago. And I would talk to them, and I try to get to a deeper side and be happy and try and, you know, bring joy to their lives. Even if maybe that's not what they're, you know, maybe they're happy already. Why not add more positivity to it? You know?
Yeah.
So it's like I try to live the best life I can. And I try to push that. And obviously sometimes there's times where it's hard, and sometimes there's times where it's difficult, and dealing with other problems doesn't make it any easier. But when it comes down to it, you know, all in all, it is just a matter of mindset. and a matter of how far you push yourself to be a better person, how far you push yourself to be a stronger human being, to be positive, you know, in how you live your life.
Good answer.
A very good and elaborative answer. Yes. I try.
Yeah.
All right, so we are now at almost the 2-hour mark. Is there any other stories that you have? It doesn't even have to be in your travels. Just any other experiences you have before you want to talk about this final one. Anything noteworthy?
No.
No.
Nope.
That was a long, hard thought. Just no, I'm good. Nothing else.
I'm like, I guess there's a whole lot of things to say, but I think no.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm trying to see if there's anything, you know, to build this up. Let's talk about death for a second. Before we talk about the story, let's talk about death and how our perspectives on it. And you could say your perspective prior to what happened, or you know, how you feel about it now. But for me, as of recently, and I guess I could say once again, due to my, you know, my relationship experience, I would say that after dealing with that, for me, if I knew I was dying and I couldn't be helped, nothing could be done to save me. Say I was dying of old age, you know, you're just kind of on your way out. Yeah. I would say, for me, I would say it's still a peaceful experience. I don't think anybody should be afraid of death unless they've done terrible things in their life, and they, you know, even if they have some sort of redemption at the end, I don't think they should be afraid. I think, you know, if you should be afraid of death if you've done some horrible things, and you know, realize that at the very end, you know, but maybe that's just me. Maybe it's me being cynical, but I think that no one should be afraid of death if you know that you've done positive things in your life and you've tried to live a good life. No matter how dark and sad it is, you focus on what you've done. You focused on how you've been, you know, where you stand. For me, I would focus on what I've done in my life, the positives of that fact, and how it might have influenced other people to live their lives out better. And the experiences that you've gone through, as opposed to like feeling, you know, as opposed to feeling sorry or sad or upset or scared. If you were in that moment, you should feel peace. If you know that you've done a good job at living and you've tried your best and you've done everything you can, you should feel peace. And it's a scary thought. I mean, death is scary because everyone can believe their own thing. And I believe that there is an afterlife, but some people don't. And that's not, you know, that's what they believe, and that's fine, because no one truly knows what happens at the end. That it's just kind of a fact. But you can choose to believe what you want, but I still think that it's a peaceful experience. You know, even no matter how painful it might be. Because towards the end, you know you're going out. So why not just go back through your life and how you feel about it? You know? How do you respond to that? How would you like to respond to this?
Good question. I think the only thing that perhaps be different, or perhaps when I say it, you may even agree with my vocabulary.
Probably.
With people who are quote unquote bad people or have done wrong in their lives, like, you know, all of these atrocities happening in the Middle East, and these gangs of kids who, you know, they're raping and killing, and these things happen, you know. But even for them, if in their dying breaths they're thinking of goodness and they can remember what goodness is, they can remember goodness as the warmth of a mother holding a child. They can remember goodness as being in the present moment and breathing and being thankful for breath, and try in your last moments to thank the giver of breath, the giver of air, the giver of the lungs that breathe this air. No matter what you've done, it's about that that moment, if you can remember who to thank, or at least try to contact, try to imagine or say the name or put goodness at the forefront of your mind. And I believe that everyone automatically, as you're dying, you have to.
Right.
Or else you can die.
I agree with that. What I was saying, obviously is cynical, and I feel like I pushed myself a little too far to, go or say what I was saying. But I don't think I think that the bad people are the truly bad people. I wouldn't say that someone who's made mistakes in their life is a bad person, because I know many of those people. I know many people who go through bad experiences and they've done bad things, but because they're human, because they live their lives out uniquely and differently. They don't follow any strict rules or strict order, or they don't follow what society tells them to. Just because of that, it doesn't make them a bad person. And even if they've hurt other people, as long as you understand that you've hurt them, and as long as you know that you may be in the wrong, and even if you don't, because you're still a human, you still aren't a bad person for doing those things. I don't think any one person is a bad person unless they've done terrible things and their motives are completely horrendous in the worst ways. If that's their motivation, then obviously I don't think that they're a good person. But I think that every person should have good qualities to them, and I think that every person is still a good person no matter what. If it gets to a point where it's bad, like it's really bad, then maybe there should be a line drawn, I guess. But I don't think the people who think that they're bad people and they live out their lives normally, like I've known friends like that, where they think they're a bad person for making a mistake in their life. I wouldn't say that they're a bad person. I don't think that one decision judges their character based on that. Because like me and you, I mean, we're both human beings. I know you're one of the most perfect or close to perfect people I've met, but you still make mistakes. I make mistakes. Yeah. Everyone makes mistakes. It is what it is, and obviously we make choices. Sometimes we regret, sometimes we don't, that are negative, and it doesn't really change who we are. I think deep down, still inside, we're all born pure, or we're all born with a unique, obviously a unique personality, but a good personality, someone who should still be positive in life.
And, or else we wouldn't be born into this world. We were chosen. We were chosen to be in this world for a reason.
Yeah, I would agree. To spread happiness. There's a saying that I truly like, and it's from Into the Wild. Not to keep bringing that back up, but one of his final, he writes in a journal, and one of the final things he writes as he's dying is, happiness is only real when shared. And it's one of those sayings that I truly think has changed my life and perspective on life, is that it's true. When you're with people, especially people you care about, whether that be friends or family, you share happiness when you're with them. You are truly happy when you see them smiling. If you tell a joke, you're happy. You're truly happy in that moment when you see them smile. When you hug them or do whatever and you're just hanging out with them. To see them smile is true happiness. To share that. I feel like it's one of the most important things that people don't really, people take for granted, I guess.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
Right. I would say that, I mean, you can still be happy on your own. There's nothing preventing that. But I do think true happiness and true emotion, true care, and true love comes from sharing joy and sharing positivity and happiness with other people. I don't think that it's something that, hang on. I got to take a step back here because I'm going somewhere I don't. Hang on. I'm losing my train of thought. We need to fix this. No, I think that
all you're saying is supported.
It's interesting to think of it that way. And I think that it should be not a philosophy, but a saying that people should truly try to strive by, is the fact that you should share happiness with other people, because then that happiness is shared with others and it just becomes real. like you positively affect someone else's day, and they try to do the same, throughout their day. That's what I've experienced before. You help someone else, they help someone else later that day because they've had a good day, and it becomes a real happiness, real positivity.
That's how we change the world.
That is how we change the world. Like you can say, I mean, people say that it's impossible to change the world. I say that that's bullshit because you totally can.
Exactly right.
You totally can. It's just how you impact other people. If you're a Debbie Downer,
and how you do
if you're a Debbie Downer and you're pushing other people down, then you're obviously changing the world in your way, which is sickening. Not sickening, which is just negative. It's just sickening when you do that. But no, I totally agree. I agree that you can change the world. As sublime and surreal as that saying sounds, it can be done.
Yeah.
So, well, just before we talk about this story, I do have one question for you because I this is something I think that you might find interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep delaying this, but I do have one question, and it's something I've asked my friends about before, and it's something that I'm sure you have some sort of very, very cool answer, and I'd love to hear it. But if you could go in the past and have a conversation with anyone in the world, regardless of language, culture, and it can't be Jesus, because everyone seems to want to do Jesus. Besides Jesus, not to have anything against the man, I love him, but besides Jesus, who would you pick and why?
Who would I pick and why?
Yeah.
Good question. So I would think about somebody who suffered immensely, because I don't want to suffer immensely, so I could take the wisdom from them.
Fair enough.
And not have to do any of the suffering.
Yeah.
So. Question. My mind automatically goes to like textbooks and history classes and stuff.
Right, and I deal with the same thing because I was thinking, I was like, from history, and I always think of like Kiefer's history textbook, and I'm like, oh, no, I know my defined answer, but I'm very curious as to who you might pick.
Yeah. I guess like. So I'm thinking about just to talk to them, right?
Yeah, or just like have a conversation with them. Maybe even spend a day with them. Whatever you think is worth,
Yeah.
hanging out with, I guess. Vibing,
Yeah. So, in ancient Egypt, Thoth, he's the interdimensional traveler. He was around in Atlantean times with Atlantis.
Could you say that one more time? I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So in ancient Egyptian times, there's a man named Thoth. He's an interdimensional traveler. So pretty much he reached Christ consciousness where he accessed his Merkaba, which is the human light body. So there's our physical bodies and then there's our light bodies, kind of like what you were talking about. When you access that, your body literally becomes a vehicle and you after the fall of Atlantis, he was in Egypt, and he pretty much like saved humanity, and he just has all of the wisdom of all dimensions, and like I don't know the guy, so I'm not positive.
Right.
But if he were Atlantis, then him thought.
Okay. I would choose. Well, for me, that's an interesting one, but I would choose. Well, what were you gonna say?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
You.
Well, I would choose probably a Greek or Roman philosopher. I don't know. I haven't settled on one yet, but and it's just something like they live in such an interesting time. Like I would love to talk to like Aristotle or You keep cutting out. What's going on? Is it the internet? I think.
Oh, me? On my end?
Yeah, you're on. It might be. It could be my end that's cutting you off, but like you're saying stuff and it's like cutting you off, and I feel.
Oh no, I'm not saying anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I would. Hang on. I would probably pick Aristotle or what's another one?
Socrates.
Socrates, right? That's the one I was thinking. It was on the tip of my tongue too. just to like talk to them and see like their perspective on life, because I understand they wrote it down and but like just to have sit down, and they lived in such an interesting time, you know, like the prime golden age of Rome was it's such a cool time for me. Like a lot of the history I like is like World War II stuff and that in like the 40s, but if I could go back farther, it'd be the Roman times, because something about that is cooler to me than medieval times. I don't know why, but they lived in such a cool time, and I love their architecture and the way they think about life. So yeah, it's interesting. Ancient Egypt, I would have never guessed. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, the pyramids are such a mystery, and there's so much theory behind them.
Yeah, it's aliens. What are you talking about?
Right, exactly.
No, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. All right, no more delay. Let's do it. Final story, Colorado. Here we go.
Okay. So I'm in Colorado. My friend from Buffalo comes to visit. Her name's Henna, and I met her through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
We're Jiu-Jitsu partners.
Right.
And I started giving her sound healing with the singing bowls. So we would do energy sessions, much like you come in for a massage therapy. You would come in for an energy session, and we would do the whole vibratory.
So, I'm gonna pause you for a second. Hang on. What can you explain what sound healing is to the audience and stuff?
So the basic synopsis of sound healing: all of matter is made of vibration at its primal stage. So it's going off of that as vibration comes in with intention. So I have these Tibetan, or actually hand-hammered copper singing bowls from Calcutta, India.
Okay.
And they're walled singing bowls. As you strike them, they deliver pure vibration. And you can do sound therapy with many different instruments, but these are very, very pure with their vibration. So as vibration comes in with intention, it creates order. And pretty much where there is disease and where there is disorder, it's stagnicity, or where cells become stagnant. Right. So in your body should be in a constant flow. And like cancers, there's stagnicities, and the cells begin to multiply in a certain area. And so pretty much the vibration comes in, and it reminds the cells that have grown dormant, it reminds them of the holy dance of vibration, of life force, of prana, of this kundalini, and it pretty much shakes them by the collar. It's like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And then the cell knocks into the other cell, next cell into another, and then it reclaims order within yourself.
That's really cool. Yeah.
That's the physical healing of it. And then you can have mind detox therapies and group guided meditations, aura cleansing and aura strengthening, brainwave therapy, many different things. And you can follow the single vibration all the way down until you can't audibly hear it, but you can still feel the vibration. And then by doing this, you come in connection and are able to remember. You're able to remember what it is that you are feeling and who you are that is feeling. That's
really crazy. Honestly, like I had never heard of sound healing before talking to you when I met you when I met you in the car. And I had looked it up, and it's really interesting stuff. Like, it's just cool. Like I mean, obviously I've never done it. I've never gotten to experience it, but it sounds really cool. No pun intended. It just seems really cool. And it's something that's really unique that you kind of, pushed yourself to kind of go in that direction and experience that and everything. Okay, so back to the story. Yes, sound healing. Right.
Okay, so yes, I am in Colorado. My friend from my sound healing client and my jiu-jitsu partner, Henna, comes to visit me. And so she's about to leave. We're there on the farm for a week. The whole time, all we're doing is energy work. She's also an energy healer. So we're going back and forth. I would give her healing sessions. She would give me one. And whoever was the actual dominant or whoever was the giver, it was also equally receiving. And so it was pretty much a week of straight energy work back and forth. The week goes by. she's about to go back to Buffalo. She's about to drive back, and we decided we needed to go into the Rocky Mountains before she left. We're already here, so we're 15 minutes from Boulder Canyon, and we can go straight into the Rockies from there. So we park our car one day, Saturday, at around 4 p.m., and we start taking this hike. And this woman, right as we start hiking up, she goes, "Hey!" And she waves to us, and then she starts pointing down, like, "Get down from there," because I think due to COVID, you're not supposed to be hiking. And also, we weren't on a set trail. Right. So we ignored her. We kept climbing. And we climbed up the ridge of this lower mountain. And all we were looking for is a place of silence, a place where we could be in communion with the mountain. And we can get caught up in our life situation, in the fact that I am a farmer and an intern and a friend and a brother and a son, and the fact that Hannah is a mother and a doctor and a jiu-jitsu practicer and an energy healer and all that she is and all that I am. Mm-hmm. And what we wanted to do was go into the mountain, become empty vessels, go up, forget who I am as Ryan, forget who she is as Hannah, but just be with the mountain, in communion with the mountain, in meditation, with prayer. So we're looking for a quiet spot. We hike for about 2 hours and find this spot where you can't hear the road, you can't see the lights of the city, and it's beautiful. It's what we were looking for. So immediately I start clearing the land out, just like I've learned to do, creating garden beds. And I create a bed for ourselves, for our physical bodies. And in the middle of the bed, I create a little fire, a little spot dug out with a rock. And the sun's
Uh-oh.
She's in sneakers and a light hoodie. We're like, man, it's still 80 degrees and the sun is going down. What do you think about staying the night? We look at each other. We decide, let's stay the night. We have fire. We have this comfy poncho that we can put over both of us. Let's spend the night. So from there, I really make sure the fire is going well, and we start praying by the fire. Sun goes down, we're warm, we're comfortable, we have a beautiful fire. 80 degrees, drop down to 60 degrees, wrap ourselves in the poncho. We're comfortable. We're just what we were looking for. Silence, complete darkness. You look up and it's just this cloudy night, so there's no stars. So you feel like you're in this little dome, in this little escape from reality, almost like you're in a time capsule. And here we are, just in prayer by the fire. And hours go by. We're warm. We're comfortable. We're feeling good. We're feeling supported and steady and beautiful and perfect in this moment. And the temperature begins to drop more and more after a few hours. We're still comfortable, still okay. And it begins to hail at around 40 degrees. Mm. And it felt magical. For a moment, we both look at each other. We stick out our tongues. We're catching the hail on our tongues. It feels incredible. It's like the rest of the world, every other person, this over 7 billion people are all doing their own things. But here we are in our little enclosed time capsule, separated from the rest of the world.
That's such a cool perspective. Like, thinking about that in that moment, that's such a fucking cool perspective. The idea that, like, you're in the moment, you're worrying about only yourselves and the mountain that you're on. Not even yourselves, just the mountain you're on and the experience that you're receiving in the moment. And knowing that everybody else is doing whatever, across the world, all these billions of people, and you're just yourself, you're with Henna on this mountain together. That's all that matters to you. Yeah, well, yeah. And it's really, I don't know, it's just mind-blowing to think about that in a weird way. It's just a cool perspective,
So I totally appreciate you cutting in there and giving that, because I really I really do appreciate it. I appreciate the way you say things and the way you think. So for a while, we're just in this little hailstorm, and for a moment I look at Hannah and the smile kind of fades, and we're just kind of dying down. We start to breathe. Notice the air is cold on our lungs.
Mhm.
And so she says, I'm cold. And I'm like, no problem. We have this poncho. The poncho we were sitting on, we put over us. And the warm stays in the warm. The inside stays on the inside. The outside with all the pricklies stays on the outside. And the head hole for my poncho becomes our smokestack. The fire's in between us. And we're comfortable yet again.
Yeah.
Hours go by. We're praying by the fire. And all this time, I mean, I could speak about this for hours and days about the downloads we were getting as we were looking into this fire. It was like looking for God and finding it. Looking for the answers to all of our questions and finding the answers more than we could ever expect. And they were all in the embers, and they were just, it was like reading a book, but with no straining, just osmosis. And any question we had we were given perfect answers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're there for hours yet again, and we're feeling sun's probably going to be coming up by now. You know, hours walking up the mountain, sun went down, hours praying by the fire, hail. Now hours again go by, and we're underneath this poncho. So I'm looking out for the sun. I stick my hat out of the poncho, and I see all around us is a foot of fresh snow. It's like, oh no. Uh-oh.
Yeah, ruh-roh.
Uh-oh. So I get back in the poncho. I go to Henna. I'm like, listen, Henna, all of our stuff is buried. There's a foot of fresh snow. I think that we need to go hike down now. She's like, what do you mean? You're barefoot. Where's our shoes? I'm like, they're buried by the snow. We could get them, but your shoes are filled with snow, and my sandals aren't going to do me any good. It's like, okay.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but...
yeah, right, exactly. Don't shoot the messenger here, but...
you may want to take a look outside the poncho. You might find something that wasn't here before.
Let me know what it is. Let me know when you see it.
Shit, dog.
So we're up here stranded on this mountain. We have no phones, no way to call for help, no way, anything. We need to do this ourselves. So the cold's coming in. We're like, this snow's not going anywhere. Morning will be here very soon. We got to start hiking down. So she's like, okay, what do you need from me? I'm like, just be silent and be still. And I'm going to stand up into the poncho. And so I do this. And right away, the snow drops down my back. And then we're just completely shocked by the cold. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I look at her, she looks at me. Our eyes are wide. And my feet step in the snow for the first time. It's like, okay, we need to go. I take her by the hand. Look at all of her stuff we're leaving behind, put a pouch around my neck that's attached to my water bottle that hopefully has her car key in it, and we start hiking down the mountain over rocks and cactus, and we start going over barefoot, me with no socks, her with socks, and we start going down, hugging onto trees as we go, and slipping, falling, smacking our hips, smacking our bones, smacking our back, smacking our legs. Our feet are bleeding. We're not feeling so hot, but there's nothing for us to do. It's like, okay, so maybe we should just go back up to our spot. That's already covered in snow. Fire is gone. Nowhere for us to go. Like, this is all we have to do is go down. So we start hiking down, and after a while, I start finding like a little rhythm with it, almost like skiing on my snow-packed feet. And my feet are pretty solid. I've been playing barefoot soccer for years, and like I've broken 7 of my 10 toes, and now 8 or 10.
They're thick as diamonds.
My feet are hobbit feet, so no worries. And so we're going down, and pretty much an hour passes by, and it doesn't feel like we're any closer. And we're freezing. I look at her, she's just shivering, and I'm shivering. And so we stop, and I'm like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? And I'm looking at her up mountain, and she's like, fire. We just need fire. We just need fire. And I'm freezing, and I take out my lighter from the pouch, and I take out some twine, and I start trying to light it. 2 times, doesn't light it at all. 3rd time, starts lighting. The twine starts catching on fire. I drop the lighter, take out matches, try it once, drop the matches in the snow. Everything's buried in the snow. I stuff everything back in the pouch along with the snow, and I'm like, we need to go. We just need to go. Even if we got the fire started, I was thinking to myself, it was no use. We're still just stuck in the snow. My feet are buried. We're buried.
Right.
So
well, I was going to say, I mean, the whole reason this is happening, the reason you're dropping your stuff is because it's so cold. You feel, right, you don't feel anything in your hands at that point, you know?
They're shaking uncontrollably is the thing.
That's also true, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I couldn't even move my thumb properly. We were just frozen at this time. And so we continue to slide down, and we're sliding and pretty much have your elbows at your side, arms across your chest, just like you learned on the water slides when you were a kid. And you're sliding down these rocks and cactuses, hitting off the trees. And finally, we come to this section. So the way we came up was following that ridge. To get onto the ridge, we climbed over this big rock structure. We did some scatter climbing without ropes, and it was low stakes climbing. But now it was impossible because there's 1.5 feet of fresh snow on it. There's no way to go. There's rocks to our right, rocks to our left, and then this steep canyon that goes into these bushy trees. It's like we have nowhere to go. So I slip, I fall into this tree. She slips, falls into me. I hit my hip off the tree. We're both laying there in the snow. I put the poncho over her. We're just shaking there, just shaking, and we're saying, God, you took us up here. This was not some intellectual decision for us to stay here. Like, our minds kept on saying no, but you kept on saying yes. Intuition led us here. If we're supposed to live, let us live. If we're supposed to die, let us die. But please put us in one or the other, because right now we're just freezing and we're in pain. So we lay there for a long time, and I'm shaking, Hannah's shaking, and we're silent, and it's like my feet are just getting covered in snow, and they're hanging off the edge of the universe, what it feels like. And my face is getting covered, and everything that can't be covered from the wet poncho is now frozen and can't move. And we're just laying there and we can't move. And Hannah says, do you have your knife? And I said, yeah. She says, can you slit my throat? And I say, no. And it was life and death, and I just hold her and I try to keep her warm with all I had.
Yeah.
I gave up on myself. I knew my feet and toes were at the very least gone, if not the rest of myself. So I just hold her and try to keep her warm with all the rest that I had. And she's shaking and silent, and the whole time I'm just praying. I'm just saying everything I can, all the truths that I know, I'm trying to say. I just get them out there, let them know that I know it. And after about an hour of this, I'd say, my head hits the ground, my face is in the snow, I'm just frozen. And then I'm all surrounded by warmth, and it felt like somebody put a blanket on me, like the warmest blanket in the world. And I'm just laying there warm and comfortable. And it's good and it's nice, and I kind of am still in my physical body, but my physical body is okay. It's like suffering, but it's okay.
Right.
And Anna's gone silent. She's shaking, but silent. And that's kind of how I left it. And I said in my last words there, while I was warm and comfortable, I said, Hannah, in these times, the two things that can never be taken away from us, we can always laugh and we can always dance. So in that moment, with my frozen voice, I'm saying, hey the Raja, move your body right. Do. And I'm like, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, get movement. And at that point, I couldn't wiggle my toes. She couldn't wiggle her fingers. And we just laid there and we were done. So
well, I mean, if you don't mind me pausing you for a minute, thinking on that moment, I mean, you were brushed with death, and it's insane I mean, it's surreal that you even think that, you were that close. And I mean, from that moment, you told me in the car when we were talking, is that it was peaceful, and as we talked about before, I think that death is peaceful. And
as you were, life that's suffering, that's not.
Yeah, life is the suffering, but death is the peace. And like describing that, is there any way you could describe that moment just like with more elaboration on it, on feeling that, that last, I mean, you were so close. I mean, what did that just feel like? I know you described it as the warm blanket, but is there any other way to elaborate on it?
So Hannah's, with her last words, she's like, Ryan, if we survive, I just want the warmest bath. And I'm like, oh, Hannah, tell me about the bath. Tell me all about the bath. And it almost felt unreal, because here we are, our bodies are just dying, yet both of us felt like we just drank 10 cups of coffee. We're just wired. Our minds are so awake, thinking about everything, and then thinking about all of the universal truths, thinking about everything that I've ever known as true is true, and then everything I've ever known as false is false, and being able to make that distinction. Everything that I've held myself to, all the identity, all the agreements, everything that I've taken upon, all the burdens, all of it was so light, and it just floated off of me so easily. It's like, what is heavy in this reality? What do you actually take with you when you die? You take love. And it was, as all the heat was going from the extremities, all it was a little fire in the heart. And it was enough to burn somebody, I'm telling you. It was an ember, and
would you
it felt,
go
ahead.
Would you say that's kind of what your soul is? You know?
Yeah. It's the mystery of life. Like everything else is, we can understand, but it's like, what makes a fire light? What makes life live? What is the nutrition for the roots that grow to the trees that give us fruits? It's the mystery of it all, and that's at the center, and that's the thing that we called upon, and it's what the only thing that we could harvest at that time. We're covering ourselves.
I mean, you were just, it seems like it's all adrenaline, you know, because at first it's obviously scary. It's a scary thought. You're only 18, 19, and this is now happening to you.
Yeah.
But the way it kind of fizzles off from an adrenaline rush of all these thoughts to just pure peace and it's interesting how that psychology works. And
you're so right, man.
And it's just cool. I mean, obviously, it's a terrifying experience, but even still, it still has a silver lining to it, and just being able to experience that peace for the moment, it's interesting.
Yeah, you're really right. And to describe it, and something that probably feels good, is it felt familiar. It felt really familiar. I think it feels the same when a baby's coming into the world. It's like, oh, I'm so comfortable in this womb. Like, why are you taking me out? I feel like this is the only way I could live if I have this umbilical cord. If I'm being osmosisizing the nutrition around me, like, how am I going to live? And then it's taken from the womb, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad. And it's just silent. And then it goes into the next life, just like that. And it's felt like a transition, like a holy transition. And I felt really good about who I was transitioning into, and who I was before, who I was at the moment, who I was going to be after.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I mean, Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say it's just really beautiful. I mean, like that, just being able to describe it that way, and I like the analogy of how we come into this world scared until we realize, it's the new reality, but we are kind of used to it, and we start to kind of get used to that, and it's peaceful, and we kind of go out the same way, how we're scared at first, but then we realize it's just peace. It's another transition. You said the word transition, and it works really well. Go ahead. Go ahead with your story.
And I really appreciate the way you helped me tell this, because a lot of times I tell the story and people just listen because the drama of it all can take away from the actual wisdom.
Don't you know, Ryan, this is a podcast. There's two people here. No, go ahead.
Good, man, good. So we died, we're at the death tree, we're done, and comfortable, warm, transitioning into the next. And pretty much before I knew it, I heard screaming from down mountain, and it's Henna, and she's saying, Ryan, come on. And I'm looking down, or I open my eyes, but they're kind of icy shut, closed. And there's snow all over my face, and my feet are just covered, and I can't wiggle my toes. And I'm like, holy shit, she's going to make it. She's going to live. She's going to see her kids again. She's going to live. She can pass on the light that we harvested up here. And so at that time, she stopped, and she looked at me, and she's down mountain. And it's pitch black, yet we still see each other completely perfectly, which is really an interesting part of all this that I haven't really noticed it before. But she looked at me and she's like, come on. And it was one of those things where it's like, when it's like a dog and you're like, come on, come here, come on, little buddy, come on, little.
Yeah, right.
Like the dog's not reacting at all, and then the owner comes, like, come on, and then the dog just gets up right away. It's like no choice.
Yeah.
It felt like that. It felt like anything in my life had been like, come here, come here, come here. I'm like, oh, I guess I could go this way. That's, but the way she said it, with the voice she was given to tell me, I took every last hint of energy that I had in this life. I take my heels into the ground and I pull my body behind them. I pull my body until I reach the ledge, and then I just put my arms over my chest like the water slide, and I let my body slide down the rocks. And I'm hitting rocks, getting stuck on a ledge, getting stuck on a tree, gliding with my heels, hitting rocks. And she's above me. She's down mountain, and she's just sliding down like the most glorious figure skater in the world down this treacherous mountain. And I had no idea. I'm just bawling my eyes out, crying, weeping, and saying, I don't want to die. And then after a while, I would get stuck and I would say, I don't want to die, and I wouldn't be able to move. And it wasn't until I changed that to, I want to live. I would say, I want to live. And I'm crying and pulling myself from the heels. And I start sliding down, and we start seeing this road, and we start seeing cars pass on it, trucks pass, and one after another, every few minutes one would come, and she's like, Ryan, grab your flashlight and shine it. And so the flashlight is on and it's in my pocket. I have no idea how that happened, but it's on and it's in my pocket. And I start shining it at the road, my hand's shaking more than it's ever shook before. I'm like, help us, please help us, we're dying. And nothing. And then we go and we continue down, and we lost the road. We couldn't see it anymore, but we knew we needed to just travel down. And the cars are getting a little bigger, a little closer, but it still felt so insurmountable. We could never make it there. Finally, we see this flat orchard in front of us, and I stand up because I'm so excited. I slip right away. I smack my head off the rock, and I lay there. And again, the warmth comes over me, and I'm like, wow, I was really close. I was really close. It was like a video game, and it's like, dun, dun, dun. Like you just die right before you reach the flag. It's like, oh, next time I know what to do better. Yeah. But it's like, no, this is it. And Hannah's like, come on, Ryan. If you stop, you die. And so I get up, and I'm like disoriented, and I start falling forward with my whole goal was just to keep my feet down mountain. And at this point, my feet were not down mountain. It was my body that was down mountain, and my feet were above me, and I'm sliding down, rolling, and hitting off rocks until I'm on my hands and knees on flat ground. And all the rocks and the cactus and the fallen trees, they turn to this flat asphalt underneath this foot of snow. And I start crawling into a standing, and my feet are just, it feels like they're broken, all of them, like every part of it. And I start knocking at this woman's door, which is in front of us, this glowing house. And I knock with the flashlight, and then I fall against the door. I open the handle, fall into her house. I go, please help us, we're dying. She comes running down with her 2 dogs. She's in her underwear and a long shirt, and she goes, get out of here, get out. And then she looks so confused. She thought we were breaking in, but she was so confused. So she looks at Hannah, who was behind the door at this time, and Hannah's just an icicle. She has blue lips, and they're chattering teeth and frozen hair, and she goes, oh my God, come in. And she pulls us both in. We both fall on the ground, and I'm helping her take off her clothes because Hannah's hands couldn't move and my feet couldn't move, so I'm just crawling. And then this woman's like, what do you need? I go, what is your name? And she goes, my name's Lisa. What do you need? And I go, Lisa, we need a bath. And Hannah's saying, we need a bath. So she starts drawing us a bath, and we crawl upstairs naked, and we're just dripping with blood and all this snow and ice all over this woman's clean house. And we crawl into this bath, and it's way too hot for me, but Hannah goes straight into it. And she calls the EMTs, and she calls the police, and the police come, and they're like, get out of here. And we're like, no, please, we're just dying. We just need your help. So the EMTs come, and we're sitting there in the living room of Lisa's house, wrapped in towels, and Lisa giving us clothes, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And we're like, no, Lisa, you saved our lives, thank you. And all these police officers and EMTs are asking us all these questions and looking through my pouch, and they look in my pouch and they just keep on pulling out snow, just a bunch of snow, and they go, nothing's in here, where's your ID? And I go, we didn't bring our ID. And I go, where's the key? And he goes, there's no key, there's nothing in here, it's just snow. So we lost the car key. The police made us walk to the cop car in the snow barefoot yet again.
Mm.
And they drove us to our farm on this hard plastic seat. Our butts are bleeding and are all bruised, and our backs are bleeding and bruised. And we're sitting there on the plastic seat just bumping around on the ride, and they drop us off at the wrong driveway at the farm.
Mm.
So I had to walk again barefoot in the snow, which felt like I was just breaking my feet. And I fall into the farmhouse and I go, hey, Marissa, can you come here for a sec? Trying to sound as natural as possible so I don't scare her. And she comes around the corner and she goes, oh, what the hell happened? And she draws me a bath, helps me take off the clothes that were on me. And then I fall into the bath. And Hannah went into the trailer and she was just sitting by the fire, silent. And yeah, we survived.
Just narrowly too.
Just barely,
yeah. Right? And what were the effects of this? I know you had said that you had gotten frostbite on your feet for sure. What was it?
Yeah, again? So I have all 10 toes still, but all the skin came off of the toes. So now I have this fresh layer of skin on all 10 toes that is hypersensitive. So I didn't have feeling for the past month, and now that the skin is coming off, it's I have hypersensitive feeling. Hannah is starting to get feeling back in her fingers, but more or less, man, the crazy part is like we're okay.
Yeah.
No broken bone. I sprained both of my ankles, but I could walk. I could walk after a little, and I never needed crutches. Like she's okay. She can still practice her medicine, and like more or less, we are okay physically. And that's the crazy part about all this.
That's amazing. No, it's a miracle, honestly. It's amazing that happened. I mean, that's one of the craziest stories I think I've ever been told in my life. And I get to hear it from somebody who I got to, go to high school with, and just a year after we both graduated. Like, this is something you'd hear at a midlife crisis, or like, someone's midlife, But nah, you experienced this at 18, 19 years old. It's insane. I mean, it's crazy, and you got to experience, brushing death, and so early in your life too. It's just, it's one of the, honestly, I don't know. It's a miracle that you survived, and I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that you made it out, with just minor problems. I mean, you had stated that you were bleeding from your back and your ass too, and it's like, really. And you're okay. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's very awesome. It's truly incredible, and it makes me feel. What does it make me feel? It makes me feel support. It makes me feel supported here in this reality. It makes me feel steady. And when I see myself in the mirror with all these new scars, it makes me feel beautiful. And then I ask for God's vision, and I see myself as perfect. And from there, I can see every single entity in the world as such. And you couldn't have said it any better, man. That's perfect. Listen, it's been a pleasure, man. I so appreciate you. Hey, you know what? I mean, I appreciate you too, and I was so surprised to finally get a response on a school email that I thought you would never check, but here we are now. You're on my podcast talking about your awesome stories, and it's just fucking amazing to have you here, man. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful that I got to. I mean, even just meet up with you. That brightened my day up and brightened my week up, and it was just an awesome experience. So, well, wow. Seems like we're kind of running out of road here. I'm sorry that I kept you for almost 3 hours now. Wow, that's amazing. But I'm really glad that I got to. I'm glad that you got to get your story out for sure, and I'm glad that I had the experience to hear it in person and hear it live, and I'm glad that I'm really glad that you were here. So thank you for joining us. You're probably one of the nicest guests I'll ever have on this podcast, and one of the most responsive. And it's going to be great. Obviously I'm excited to hear what other people have to say, but I don't think anything beats this story, and I don't think anything, will beat this story. This is, it's just I'm trying to put this into words where it's simpler. But I'm really excited to hear from you in the future. I really hope you keep up on I really hope you start that vlog. I'll be your #1 fan. But I'm really glad to hear from you. I'm glad that you got to share this story, and I'm really glad that I was able to, give you an outlet to do that. So, as we're coming to a close here, I will put Ryan's SoundCloud and his Instagram in the description below. I'd love to. I absolutely appreciate you being on this podcast for as long as you were. That's great, and I'm so glad that you got an outlet to speak out on. I'm glad that you're making music. You're slowly getting back into social media. I hope you don't dip your toes in the water too much, But but I'm really glad to have you here, man. And it's been an honor to sit here for 3 hours and talk to you, buddy.
I'm just so thankful and appreciative to you, Trevor, and all that you're doing and all that you choose to be. So just know I totally support you and support what you're doing.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. Is there anything you want to say to your viewers, to the viewers, I guess, before we close this out?
Yeah, just love yourself and love each other. Death is coming. That's the thing. Like, what would you do if death is coming? Well, it inevitably is. So what would you do?
I would hope that people would change the world. That's all you can really hope.
I would hope that people would change themselves.
Change
Or
themselves
at least
and change the world.
look for
peace. Yeah, if there's anything I've learned throughout my life is that it's not to look for happiness, it's to look for peace. For sure. Thank you. Once again, I gotta say thank you, Ryan, for being here. Thank you for spending your time on this somewhat decent day. With me and sitting in front of a computer screen. I appreciate it. The dogs are barking, so I gotta wrap this up now. So,
wow.
I'm Trevor Howard. I'm obviously the host of this podcast. We're finally closing this out. So thank you guys for listening. If you listened to it all the way through, I really hope you did. This story, this is one of the greatest things I've ever heard, and I'm so glad that he got to share it with us. I'd like to thank Ryan one last time for being here. Ryan Sutton, everybody. Until next week, or 2 weeks from now, this has been HEADSPACE. This has been HEADSPACE podcast. I gotta get that right. Join me and Lucas next time for more shenanigans, and probably nothing as interesting as this, but we'll figure it out. So, thank you guys. Hope you're staying safe, stay healthy, and bye.